Hello, folks. Welcome to Taking Your Hot Seat Challenge for Enhanced Success. I'm Joe Wesley, and my guest is.
Dr. Loren Michaels Harris.
Okay, thank you for visiting us. We do appreciate that.
Thanks for
For
having
those, for those who are seeing us for the first time, thank you for visiting. For those who are coming back, we appreciate that. For those who know me, you'll know me by my tagline. I don't claim that I see dead people, but I will hope you discover something unique about yourself you've yet to discover that gives you an enhanced value in your industry over your competition. And I call that your secret sauce. And part of the reason we're doing this hot seat challenge, there are some people who are very, very assertive about enhancing their secret sauce. These are people who are already successful and they want more success for them, their audience, for their market, for themselves. So they take this hot seat challenge. It's formatted in a manner that I begin by asking, what's your favorite pastime? And then having done that, question and answer, not scripted, not rehearsed, we spend the last 20 minutes or the last 10 minutes of the 30-minute session talking about how Dr. Loren's ingredient of secret sauce adds a distinct value to his market for his ideal client. So we'll start off by asking Dr. Loren, before I forget, commercial break in front, there's further descriptions of Dr. Loren and myself in the description section in YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Please remember to contact him or myself with more interest in what either of us are providing for you. So Dr. Loren, what's your favorite pastime?
At 61, sitting.
All right.
Sitting down, really, seriously, learning how to stop, how to just be still. You know, you spend so much of your life trying to get there. And then when you do, you realize, well, shoot, how do I slow down? And so
I hear that.
Really my favorite pastime.
I hear that, but I'm going to hazard a guess. When you were 4 years old, sitting was probably not the first thing in your lifestyle. So let me ask this differently, and I get and respect what you're saying. But let's say 7 years of age. Did you have something you particularly enjoyed doing?
Sure. Well, and actually, it still is one of my favorite pastimes when I'm not sitting, and that is the respecting the art of play.
Okay.
Having fun, laughing, enjoying life, playing games. I have ADHD. I have all my life, and I was one of those kids that they were like, "Would you go take a nap? Please sit down." You know, and so it's really ironic. You see now why I'm like, okay, I get it. Why they always said sit down. But play, it's just always been so healing for me. You know, I was the only kid in the house pretty much when I was growing up. I was adopted, and all the siblings were older than me. So it was me and my imaginary friends much of the time. So yeah, and it still is today. Me and my imaginary friends most of the time.
Folks, you see me looking down. My recall's like a sieve, so I make notes. It's a blank sheet of paper initially, and then I'll refer to my notes. See, similar like that. So I'll refer to my written notes in terms of my summary of what I see as an ingredient of Dr. Loren. He says, me and my, what again? I lost track of this. Me and my secret friend, was that?
No, me and my, well, I'll go like this. Imaginary friends. When I was in foster care, they would always warn the people where they were dropping me off. He's a good kid, but don't be surprised if you come up on him and he's having a conversation and you see no one there. He has a lot of imaginary friends. But I know today they were never imaginary. They're here with me right now.
I hear you. Now, some people might say that split personality disorder, but you seem to be fairly functional to me. And actually, I'm sure let me backtrack. I'm in the observation side, so I'll back off from that. So the concept of me and my imaginary friends, do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
Because I'm both.
Okay.
I'm an extrovert when it comes to talking. I get paid to talk. I really do.
Right.
But I'm an introvert when it comes to those things that I'm not good at, those things that might scare me in some form. You know, those things that I've always held close to the vest.
Right.
And so I'm a little bit of both. The everyday me that the world knows is considered an extrovert, but in real life, I'm pretty much an introvert, believe it or not. But no one would believe it. Even my spouse wouldn't believe that if it heard me say that.
Fair enough. That's intriguing.
Mhm.
So we talked about 7 years of age, and we worked certainly through your pre-puberty life. Were there any hobbies that you took up earlier in your lifestyle?
Reading. I
Okay,
devoured books as a kid, which is interesting because now I I don't really read them. I have them. I mean, I mean well by ordering
right.
hardcover books, but most of my content comes through audio,
Hmm.
audio books and Audible. But
Okay.
when I was a kid, it was books, 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 books. And as far as sports and stuff, well, you can see tennis. I have a tennis shirt on. I love
Interesting.
tennis. Yeah.
Why do you like tennis?
Well, because it was an independent sport, which was nice for me. I felt I was very short when I was a kid. I'm very tall now at 5'6".
Okay.
So I got past that short thing. But when I was a kid, I was in 5th grade and there were kindergartners taller than me. So I didn't go out for the team things because I didn't want to be the water boy.
Uh,
So it was tennis for me. It was independent, and I like the mind part of tennis, figuring out what they're going to try to do next so I can beat them.
ah,
I'm very
so-
competitive. I will say
okay.
that I'm very competitive.
I'm,
Everyone that knows me knows that.
thank you for filling the gaps. I'm a slow writer, folks, so I do appreciate that. Intriguing story. I'm going to have to slow myself down in terms of asking questions.
Mhm.
You say that you you play tennis, or you preferred playing tennis because it was competitive, but it was not you could do. I'm assuming you could do your own thing with it. You're not being compared by people around you. Is that a fair
Yeah.
assumption?
Yeah.
Okay. And what type of books did you like to read?
Mm.
Fiction,
Adventure.
nonfiction?
Nonfiction as a kid.
Okay.
Hardy Boys. Little House on the Prairie. I like series. Let's
Okay.
put it that way. I loved a series.
And I'm assuming you love this series because it wasn't like a one-shot deal. Thank you, ma'am. Slam the door syndrome. It was a story involved. There was a continuum involved, and you don't. Let me say this differently. Switching gears here. When you hear jokes or you hear someone give a story or a joke or humor, do you like one-liners or do you like a story that develops to the punchline? Do you have a preference on that one way or the other?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I like a story that builds. I do because I in everything I do and everything I do for others, the primary focus is on the experience for me.
Okay, but we won't get to the business side just yet. We're talking about you, not the world around you. We'll get to
Yeah.
the world around you in just a minute. I appreciate that. And in all fairness to Dr. Loren, I find that people who have a passion, some post-puberty, who still have a passion about what they do, that tends to absorb their style of what they do. But we'll get to that in a little bit of time. So the concept here, to summarize somewhat, that you were adopted,
Mhm.
that, just to make sure I have my facts straight, that you were diagnosed at some point of having ADHD, that you picked up reading, and I'm going to assume reading, and I'll use myself as an example, although this is not about me. Reading was it's an escape involvement. You could absorb into it without being distracted by the world around you. Would you say that was your passion for reading, or was it something else in mind or an effort? I'm not sure if we still. Oh, I think we had a slight freeze there.
We did
Sorry
have a
for that.
slight freeze, but I'm a
Folks,
mental listener.
I'm going to interrupt, folks. This is a live performance, and I'm going to say as a result, glitches will happen here.
They happen.
So anyway, I don't know how much of my question that you heard, but
Not too much.
okay, fair enough. What I'm saying is that I also enjoy reading, and I don't usually invoke myself, but reading for me was kind of I'm also an introvert. it was kind of an escape from the world around me, something I could absorb into. So it was a plus scenario that I suspect being adopted, being in a care facility for a period of time, it's hard to have an anchor, I would think, early in your lifestyle. And so reading for me gave me a sense of anchor. Was that something that you felt worked for you? Did you have a different reason why you enjoyed reading?
Well, I think you're onto something there. At the time, I didn't realize that could have been what it was, but it was,
Hmm.
I think it served as an anchor, something I had control over
Right.
because I didn't have much control over anything
Hmm.
in my immediate life. And so that gave me a place. Plus, I had a world of friends and I love to imagine. I've always loved to imagine. So I think a lot of those things fell into play in there.
I like that.
Mm.
Now, and you say you like series because you wanted the ability to be absorbed into what you're doing. And I understand that completely also. You call yourself an introvert, and I don't normally shift into one's business this early in my program, but you are a buffet of experience and a persona. So I'm going to
I
spend
like that. Buffet. Yeah.
well, thank you. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
cool.
spend more time on what you do as a business. I think we'll learn more about you in describing that. So
Mm.
you take your hot seat challenge. And by the way, Dr. Loren's my 18th guest. Thank you for showing. I appreciate that. But now what we're going to do is talk about Dr. Loren, the business owner. So I'm going to ask her, how did you get on your current path of what you? I don't want to yet know what you're doing, but how did you get into the path to get you? Excuse the language, folks. The path to get to where you are now. What was your journey for that?
It was a complete pivot. It wasn't business related, it was healing related. And it
Okay,
just happened to, and I'm using air quotes because I don't believe in coincidence,
right,
but just for the sake of a Reader's Digest version of the story,
right.
it was I did something, I auditioned for something that I really didn't think I would get. It was not my idea. I had to be forced or pushed into it, and I did it and got in. And then almost the night of the performance came, and it was basically to tell my story of having had 22 mothers
Mm-hmm.
in foster care and freaked out and almost ran off the stage 3 times.
Right.
But thank God I didn't. I told that story that night, and it was picked up by Goldcast about 4 months later and turned into one of those videos that goes viral, and the rest is history.
Interesting. So somebody, something they gave you a dare, or they put a gun to your head, or what was the enticement to get yourself to that point out of curiosity?
Well, thank goodness my friends know me and they
Okay,
know what it takes to get me. They know how to trick me into making things seem like they're my idea.
I hear that.
And because I've always been, nobody runs me. You're not the boss of me. I was that kid because I was coming through a lot in foster care.
Right.
But this was a touring show called Listen to Your Mother.
Okay.
And they had traditionally always went from town to town around the country, auditioning women to get up on stage and tell their stories of motherhood, having lost a child or having 12 kids or whatever the case may be. In this particular year, 2015, they opened it up for the very first time to men
Right.
to share their stories of motherhood. And so my friends who knew my story said, hey, you should tell them. I bet you they've never heard of anybody with 22 moms. And I was like, yeah. And then I kind of took it on as a dare or just to shut them up.
Mm.
And lo and behold, it changed my life completely. So
Interesting. Now I'm going to digress a little bit back to your path that you mentioned 22 mothers, foster care, and you said you have multiple friends also, or invisible friends, I think, if I'm saying the word correctly.
imaginary is what they
Imaginary.
call them. They're
Fair
not
enough.
imaginary, they're real.
They're real to you. I get that. And it's real as your life for the moment. And I get that also. That a thought just came to me, and I'll hold that for the moment. So what is that you currently do as a business?
Well, I love this question. And I'll say if you were to tie all the branches, because I have 6 different branches to my business, or 6 brands, as most people would refer it.
Right.
But all of them are designed to allow me to ease suffering somewhere in this world. And so I do that through personal coaching, helping people who have found and navigated within their divine mission for a while, their journey, but they still want to reach a higher level to reach more people. They want a bigger platform. Let's put it that way. I help people with that. I have a nonprofit movement called the Power of We Symposium, designed to help all children, no matter where they're at or who they are, heal from whatever it is that needs to be healed. And I also I own a television network, Trajectory TV, providing content with direction to the world. So I have shows, television shows there. Trajectory Magazine, which is the companion to the network, which features writings and articles and information about different topics, but primarily to focus on the people who have shows on the television network.
Okay.
And then I also have just launched in the last 3 months. As a matter of fact, we shoot our first one starting tomorrow for 3 days. Legacy Builders master classes opening up, because I have a master class 3 years ago. I did one in London.
Right.
And I just believe every person, anyone who's mastered anything, deserves a masterclass, like a virtual time capsule.
Right.
Keep your work safe for the world that is coming, so it'll stay there long after we're not here. So that's pretty much it.
Excuse me. What an oxymoronic statement. You list 13,000 things, and that's pretty much it. I'm kind of
That's an ADH answer for you.
I get that. And I'm intrigued. I'm going to flow into the observation side again a little bit earlier, accelerated. I won't say early. It's a positive. That what I'm seeing or what I'm hearing now is that you've taken your history of your upbringing to make it work for you. And when I look at bullet points, I start the end and work backwards. You talk about working with children who are suffering, maybe adults at some point, adolescents as they get older, who doesn't have issues that they have to deal with. You talk about the item of, just in one word, 2 words, I would describe you as a person of committed passion. And that might sound redundant, but when I put it together in terms of your history coming along, at one point you had no control over your life. Or, I'm sure I'm going to say it wrong, my imaginary friends were part of your control, or part of your coping mechanism.
Yes.
And that's certainly understandable. And the title of ADHD, and I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist syndrome, but I can, as a layperson, I could not, it's an external diagnosis. I see it as you were coping. You had multiple things you had to be agile with, and put that in a different perspective. Before COVID, there was a phrase called strategic planning. And we all understand the concept of it. And many companies will use that phrase as, well, we can't predict the future, but based on the past, we can make these projections. It makes total sense. And then COVID came along and mucked up everything. And I don't mean to give a speech, but I really feel strongly an observation on this. And many of us, most of us, all of us didn't know how to cope with this unforeseen and happenstance. And I saw people say, I'll be glad when things, quote, get back to normal with the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm a biology major. So I felt like it was like 2 dinosaurs sitting cheek to cheek saying, I'll be glad when the cold spell snaps. No, it's not going to go away.
Nope.
And the phrasing shifted, which I like, from strategic planning to strategic agility. And I see you as personifying that concept. So the ADHD, external people would say, well, this guy can't focus. You do what you have to do with the moment, as I'm hearing it, conceptually. Now, to take it a little bit further, you had enough insight, a total of 5 feet 6 inches tall, that you've recognized limitations, but that is only a further enhancement for you. And I shouldn't say limitation, but people outside you would say, well, he's short. I get the impression you never saw that as being short. You didn't say I'm 5 foot 6 inches short. I'm 5 foot 6 inches tall. And as a result of that, part of your ADHD syndrome, part of your strategic agility syndrome, to me, this is one big package. And what you've done, like you've taken up tennis because it was something you didn't have to depend on. So you're not allocated as being the water boy because you're too small for anything else. I'm going to do something that can excel on my own. So what you've done, as I'm hearing it, is for your professions now, the common theme, common theme, or the common score is you're going to help people who have similar outlier experiences, perhaps, that they've had bringing up a lifestyle that some of us who would label ADH types, and I'm not, again, in the profession, that no, these are people who need to cope, and not just cope. Because of their coping, they've developed unique qualities and skills and observations about them that will allow them to excel. They simply need the key, someone that has the key to open that door for them for opportunity. Am I far off on that concept?
No, not really. Not really. COVID felt natural to me because of my background. Those things, see, sometimes like things that I didn't have control of,
Right.
they actually helped me because ADHD is no longer a mental illness to me. It is a superpower for me.
Good. That's kind of what I was saying. It's a
Right.
plus.
It did not happen to me. It happened for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it allowed me to pivot. I was used to changing on a dime because of growing up in foster care. I could, at one time, I lived in 3 houses in 7 days, 3 different neighborhoods in 7 days, 3 different school starts in 7 days. And so when COVID came, I was like, oh, I know how this works. Boom. Because I was at the time, because I forgot to add this one. I do a lot of live stage speaking,
Okay.
motivational, inspirational speaking. So I
Right.
had like 22 gigs on the books in 2020 when it hit, and they started falling off one by one, boom, 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 boom. And I didn't, well, what am I going to do? That's where 97% of my income comes from. So I sat down and taught myself digital creation and started immediately pivoting, and it kept me alive. And I didn't forfeit one thing in my lifestyle for the next 2.5 years because I learned I didn't have any fear that I could do what I needed to do
Mm-hmm.
to survive. And I
Right.
believe all of us have those mechanisms innately embedded in it. And now, as far as my imaginary friends, they were there. Because when I say imaginary friends, it is my belief system. I believe that there is much that is greater than me. And I needed that at all times of my existence, because the people that don't believe that there is something greater than them end up thinking they're all alone. And that's when something talks them into, well, you don't deserve this. You're not good enough for that. Do the world a favor and kill yourself. I
Right.
heard those voices many times, but I heard them while I was looking at my imaginary friends, my angels,
Mm-hmm.
my godly spirits, and things that were there designed to serve me, not those voices that were talking a bunch of crap and
Right.
never did have the intention of
I
serving me.
hear. What I just had a shift of concept. I'd like to share back with you in the audience. That first, 2 parts to it. So first off, the issue of COVID was simply another stepping stone you had to maneuver
Yeah.
to get done what you have to do. So where it froze the masses of people out there, and of those who are still talking about, I'll be glad when things get back to normal, that you've already moved on.
Yeah.
And where these issues of stepping stones people would see as hindrances, you see them as resources. It provides you the opportunity to get better than what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing here, or what I'm observing, actually the same thing, is that what you're doing is to pay back, to give forward, if I'm hearing it correctly, that
Sure.
you've had experiences more collectively accurate that has allowed you to excel, not just survive, and you need to give back. And why is this important? There are a lot of people in business who will likely claim to do what you do. And we might even argue they do it better. They're more experienced. So I don't think they can hit you on the experience
Yeah.
side, but you have, as I said earlier, a committed passion. And it might sound redundant, but I think it enhances each other, that you are walking your talk of not just coping, that there are no hindrances in one's life. There may be lack of opportunity, and with the proper key and the proper door, you can get there. But for me, what you're doing is more than simply running a business. You have a mission
Yeah.
based on a passion that you need to resolve. And it's not like you're doing 13,000 things because you're bored and you got ADHD. There's so much you want to get done.
Right.
If I'm hearing you correctly,
You're
yes?
hearing me loud and clear.
Okay.
Loud and
So
clear.
for those clients, prospects who are looking for the opportunity, but they're not clear how to spend their money. I think many people hesitate on spending money or committing because they're afraid they'll make a bad decision. Or they're hearing so many variations of "I'm the best, give me your dollars and monies and cents," that you're looking at me for my money or for the value to me, the possible client. And I have no doubt that Dr. Loren's focus, I suspect this may or may not be good business. I suspect you might even do things for people, not quite for free, but as a matter of courtesy, perhaps, because you feel they have a true need and they truly can't afford to pay it, perhaps. Maybe not. I'm sticking my neck out on that.
No, you're right.
But I think you're so passionate. You don't market that because then everybody wants it for free. But having said that, I say it because here's a guy who has a commitment and a skill. It's not just the fact he's taken courses in college and got a degree in what he's doing, that he took something on a dare. People were bad kids, his inmates, you might say, were badgering him. Let's do this. Okay, fine, let's do it. Cold turkey, scared beyond belief, and did it well enough. He was picked up by a media environment. Says, we want more of what you're providing for us. So here's a guy who got to where he is because of where he's been. And as he's indicated very clearly, his ADHD certainly was not a medical diagnosis to be discarded. It was not just a coping mechanism to get through life with his imaginary friends. It was developing his strategic agility in life to make an impact for himself and the world around him. So you've taken it up as a profession to enhance other people also. Is that a reasonable observation?
Absolutely.
Okay, fair enough. Well, then, one of the few times I've been talked out, yeah, I have to say, every client I've had, perhaps prospects, have been very good. I'm amazed about what I learn about a person who transforms from a one-dimensional, say, audio thing to a quadraphonic, stereo, full-dimensional package. And Dr. Loren certainly picks up in that environment. And so for those of you, again, who would like to know more about Dr. Loren, look in the description part of this challenge. Please share us with your friends, your comments to us, good or bad. We prefer bad because we can learn from that. And please visit us again. So Dr. Loren, as we're closing out here, is there anything you'd like to take us home with in information or concept?
I'll leave you one thing because you mentioned it. I wrote it down. I'm going to embrace this. Committed passion. I think those are the two most powerful words that have come out today here. And I'll tell you why. Because whatever it is you're here to do in this world, do it to your fullest. And that means that with purpose, you should never have a shared custody agreement. Don't just pick it up when it's convenient or when it's easy. Pick it up always, because it's never about just one thing. Just remember this. When you do that, every single decision we make, at the end of that decision will be two choices, one to the right and one to the left, 2 R's. Either you're going to rejoice in it or you're going to regret in it. Choose which one you will have before you even put the first foot forward. Do that and keep that foot in the lead, and it'll lead you directly to the R you have chosen from the very beginning. Take that with you and have a divine day.
Fair enough. Well said. I have nothing to say behind that other than thank you, Dr. Loren, for appearing. Thank you for my audience for being a part of this program. Please leave your comments. Remember to share and subscribe either to Dr. Loren or myself's
or both.
Visual environment. You're right. Thank you both.
Yeah.
On top of that, have your cake and eat it too. Thank you very much. We'll be signing off now.
Bye, everybody.